All right, moving on to Metro Vancouver. Do you want me to do that in the agenda or just in the minutes? In the minutes. All right, adoption of the agenda. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Before someone says second with the minutes, there was a typo in the minutes under, on page 7 of 8, item 1.3A. It should, instead of being 33,535,000, it should be 40,550,000. So that was just a typo in the minutes. So with that, would someone move it and seconded? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have a consent agenda in front of us with a few items on it. Would anybody like to remove anything from consent? Press your button now or forever hold your peace. All right, the consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Any last opportunities here? All right, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, there you are, Director.
I have E2.1, please, Ecom.
E2.1, okay.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, Director Stevenson? No, not yet. All those in favor of the consent remainder? Opposed? The item passes. Director Jackson with item 2, E2.1, would you like to move the motion? Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to find your button. It's been moved and seconded. Back over to you, Director Jackson.
Thank you very much. To me, this is a bit of an opportunity to bring forward something that has concerned me for a considerable period of time, like 14 years. When we began with Ecom many years ago, it was our understanding that if we, as a corporation, a municipality, wanted to have more than one service go, in other words, more than just ambulance, more than just fire, we wanted 2 to go, that we could enunciate that and that would happen. Let me go back and just give you a little tiny example if I could. I came upon a car accident one day, right in front of me. The car was upside down. There was gasoline all over the road. The driver was unconscious, hanging upside down in the car. There were children there. It was a terrible mess. It was a big accident. I called 911 and I said, can you send, because it was on the highway, can you send fire, police, and ambulance? They said no. I said, I need 3. I need fire for the gasoline and so on, police for traffic, and ambulance for probable injuries. They said, no, you can't. And I said, I need 3. And she said, no, you can have 1. So what you normally do then is you call ambulance. I need an ambulance first for the people, right? I was very confused about that when I realized that you cannot get all 3 if you want them, even though the situation warrants. So I'm not sure whether we get involved in that service. The calls for ambulance go to the ambulance service. That's another point. And they decide what happens. So I'm not, I'm concerned about that to the degree that I just want to bring it up here so that it can be discussed by this body to ensure that people are getting the services they need as quickly as possible. So if I need a policeman and an ambulance, somebody's on the road, but we need the police, then I want to make sure that happens, and it doesn't happen now. And they told us it could happen if we wanted individually to have it happen at Ecom when it first started. So maybe I could refer that to Carol, and when this comes back, we can have an answer. Or I know there are certain people.
We'll take that away and get some answers for you.
I would really appreciate that, because I think all of us aren't really aware, unless you actually have to call in to get somebody, that you're quite vulnerable for not getting another agency if you need it right away.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Alternate Director Woods.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You may recall a couple of meetings ago I brought up this issue. The thing that unfortunately our city manager is away right now, so I haven't had the opportunity to discuss with him this report. But the reason that Surrey brought the matter to the attention of Metro was the fact that there was, what I was told, stonewalling on behalf of the Ecom to deal with Surrey in terms of sharing with information. So I'm glad to see that there has been some cooperation and that it looks like they've come to a resolution. But this issue is still in my mind. What happens if we have another incident? Is ECOM going to come forward readily with sharing the information? So that sticks in my mind. I'm not going to make a big point of it. I just want to comment on it.
So I'll
Thank
just
you.
comment that our staff has worked with others, but specifically your staff and your CAO, and they've had comments on this report and felt quite comfortable with it. Director Masato.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just, having been an ambulance paramedic for 25 years and been on the board of ECOM for a good number of years, I'm now retired from that, so I'm able to speak. I can't speak to the specific instance that Director Jackson is mentioning, but I can reassure people that if there is a traffic accident where injuries are reported with something like that, you will get a police, fire, and ambulance response. And they will respond appropriately with the appropriate information that they give. So you know, I can't speak to that specific instance, but I can tell you in my career as 25 years as a paramedic and been on the board, you will get appropriate response for a call for that. And the three agencies will respond and they will work together to resolve the situation as best they can.
Thank you for your insight. Director Clay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe slightly different tact here. I read the report, and it starts off by saying that in November we asked for a review, and the report is entitled Lessons Learned. It goes through how ECOM is supposed to work, and then the last section has 3 paragraphs that says the procedures are under review and that there were some communications issues, but this report doesn't really tell us anything about what happened. Is there another report coming, or is this the end of this?
Ms. Mason.
I'll speak at a fairly high level. Greg Smith may be able to help me with more detail. There's a very thick document that has the protocols and procedures for responding to various types of events. And some of that material actually has confidential information because it has contact numbers and various agencies. So that is part of the review. So we would expect that review, which I know ECOM is looking at for sure. They're having discussions with the City of Surrey, but also with the other member municipalities. And I believe the expectation is to do some changes to our protocols and procedures, and that will likely come through RAC and then report back to this body, probably at a fairly high level, because there is quite a bit of detail in terms of how the ECOM system works.
And I know Surrey Dispatch works differently than ours, so they have maybe different concerns, but I don't know the details of what went wrong here. I do know that our community may also have some concerns about downstreaming or downloading, whatever they call it when they transfer the calls down, but not knowing any details like of what, I don't care about the policy, I care about on this event. I don't know if we would chime in and say we also have those same concerns, because I don't know what happened here. There's no resolution.
That's exactly the point. There are municipalities that will respond to those calls differently. And again, I'm not the expert on the details on what happened with the windstorm, but my rudimentary understanding is that there were many, many calls that came in. Many of them were not necessarily emergency calls. They were more like BC Hydro type calls. There's a tree down the street. So there were a lot of calls coming in a short period of time, and it was getting backlogged in terms of dispatching that out to member municipalities that might have a different system for dispatch. And so there was the block was between the ECOM communications and the City of Surrey being able to receive those calls as well, and then dispatch. So that's the protocols about how you handle those calls, because you don't want to drop calls when people are phoning in on E911. You don't want the calls dropped. The second issue that was referenced was regarding the sharing of information, and that did take an inordinate amount of time, and Metro had to step in to get that information shared with the City of Surrey, and we've since resolved that matter. So yes, there are procedures in place, and they didn't work as well as they could have in the windstorm, but that's why those events are certainly good learning experiences in terms of finding out how the system will work in that kind of an event.
So I guess just in closing, I hope that will be followed up with RAC and with our administrators, and this body gives us an opportunity to share our experiences with each other, and if we don't know what's happening, then we might all be having the same problem without knowing it. So I appreciate the follow-up, and I know that there's a reason about issues between ECOM and Surrey Dispatch as well, but that goes beyond this, I think. So.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Vice Chair Louis.
Just as your representative on, on the Econ board, I didn't want to leave it with Ms. Mason's explanation that the review is underway. In fact, the review was undertaken at Ecom, and there was activities, changes in terms of process that have already been undertaken. There's a continuing review to improve the flow and the handover of those calls. And one of the things that Ms. Mason had highlighted was those non-emergency calls and better triaging on the front end. But there have been some adjustments, and there'll continue to be additional ones. And I would encourage that if there are issues in your home local government area, then we should express those, and so that we know how it is working. Because it certainly, for that windstorm event in Surrey, it didn't work very well. And as a result of that, we're able to I think, make the adjustments.
Thanks, and I'll just pick up on that. In October 2015, a review report did come forward to, and Metro Vancouver was part of it, RAC was part of it, Ecom was part of it, and so it did happen at that time, and then this is just further discussion to that. So it's not as though that review hasn't happened or that sort of thing. It has happened, and there, to Vice Chair Louis' comments, changes were made in the system. Director Walton.
Oh, just to, I also sit on the Econ board, not through Metro Vancouver, along with Raymond. I think we're the only two in here right now who are. And I would just comment that, certainly in relation to the comments I think were made by my colleague from Surrey about perception of stonewalling, is that, the Surrey dispatch system is a colleague and a competitor in the sense to Ecom, in that they're obviously in a similar vein. And there were protocol issues that were identified fairly quickly and worked on, by our professionals. I mean, number one concern is public safety, and there's certainly the public safety, that issue was forefront, and those issues have been solved that impact that. But it certainly was an issue that has been dealt with extensively, and there's been learning applied. Thanks.
That's a great point. And as we all know in our own municipalities and here at the regional district, whenever there's a major event of anything, there's always, a special event, you always do a post-event wrap up and figure out what can be changed for next time, and that was what was done here. Alternate Director Wood, you got something new there?
I just have a direct question for Ms. Mason. Is the contract going to be changed with Ecom so that in the future, the sharing of information will be readily?
You know what, I'm going to jump in there because I think there's legality to that question that I don't think should be answered in an open meeting. So if you want to take that offline, we can have those conversations. All right, I have no other speakers, so I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving the report? Opposed? The item carried. Moving on to item G 1.1. Would someone like to move it? Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We need to split item 2.1, so would someone like to move 2.1A? Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, carried. And B has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Resolution to close under 91E and 92B. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried.